Jetzt kommen wir zu den versprochenen Länderberichten. Das war ja noch keiner, aber ich denke, das war ganz wichtig. Sie haben es ja vielleicht am Ablauf gesehen, dass hier ursprünglich Herr Schmid referieren sollte, der nicht kommen kann. Now we're looking to Hungary. The Hungarian Electromobility Association was founded by professionals to provide representation and visibility to the Hungarian electromobility sector, both in Hungary and abroad. Jozsef Petho, I hope the name is correct, is the general secretary of this association, and he will now inform us and report about the situation in his country. So welcome.
Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Entschuldigung, Janik sprechen Sie Deutsch, so I'm switching to English. I was learning, German, French, and Russian, but I was lazy when I was kid, so I didn't practice them, so I forgot it, so let's continue in English. I came from Hungary, the land of goulash, tokayasu, and paprika. But we are not talking about, this kind of, special things. Let's go back to the boring e-mobility. I'm going to talk about, the Hungarian situation in a short, quick view. Who am I? I'm the IT person. As everybody knows, we always have a fighting. What does it mean, new e-mobility sector? Is it related to the utility sector, to the oil and gas, the power and utility, big brands or OEMs? Or IT, so I'm coming from the IT parts. Without having, the connected car and the smart city option, all this e-mobility stuff doesn't work. But I'm not talking about IT stuff. I would like to cover just a few things, few facts, where we are in Hungary, how many cars do we have, how many, charging backends, what kind of programs are supporting all of these things, and what kind of statements do we have? We are lucky, so we are always saying, so we have more than 14,000, electric cars in Hungary. Is it a huge number or bad? So we have 4.6 million cars in Hungary, and we are selling 200,000, cars per year. Just compare it to Germany. In Germany, 1 month could be sold with this kind of number. So this number, it's big, but in 5 years ago when we started our missions, we expected something triple than this number. But we are really lucky because we did a small trick, how could be visible in Hungary. So we have created the green plates. So if you could walk around in Budapest, you could see the green plates, then everybody knows it's electric or plug-in hybrid or range extend, but it's electric, so it's visible, so everybody could see it. And it's quite popular, Hungary, the electric cars. Why? The answer is just quite tricky. You could see the numbers, how we are going. So we have 3 different categories. The blue is the battery electric vehicles, the classical one. The green with the range extender, i3. And the yellow, it's a plug-in hybrid. It's more and more popular because of only one thing. The one thing is not supporting the buying, process. It's a free parking. Budapest, we have the big shit, I could easily say. We have a full traffic jam, something similar than Hannover or some other big, European countries. Our public transport system is pretty good if we compare it to some other European, but compare it to the real life, because all of the number of cars, we have, the cars number is also still growing. It doesn't fit in our roads. So what can we do? We're just coming back to the city in a traffic jam. For me, every morning 1 hour, because I have to drop the kids to the school. And it's difficult to, use my Vespa in the morning because my son doesn't want to sit behind me. So I must stay in the car. If I park somewhere, then I have to pay a lot. So if I have a green plate, then easy to say I can do the free parking. But it's not a solution. And all of the autonomous vehicles also doesn't solve our problem. So we have to do something more. but it's still growing. And if we still have this, nice incentive from the government, then this number will still grow. If we stop it, then we said to the government, it's immediately go down. The other hand, about the charging infrastructure, we had several programs in the past, and the government is supporting to build the charging backend in Hungary. It's always the chicken and eggs story, as Robert mentioned before. If I don't have the charging station, then how can I use my electric vehicles? I would like to build the nice charging backend, but if I'm checking the utilization, it's pretty low. What we did in Hungary, I think it was also the stupid things, we did these free charging options. Thanks for Elmi Inoji Group. They started with this program, I think 6 years ago. It just stopped this year. Because who wants to do any investments for the free charging? Nobody. We have some Hungarian brands like MOL with the Plangi, and Inoji, E.ON, and all of the other big players, ÖMV and Shell. They are profitable companies. They would like to follow their business plan. So they need a real business. With the free charging, doesn't work. But we do have like 672 public charging stations around Hungary. All of these charging backend is good for starting. For this 40,000 electric vehicles, mainly in Budapest, it works. Because we are not counting all of the private charging poles or private charging stations within the company or within any kind of factories. This is our official grouping about each region. You see most of the car, 80% of the green plates car are surrounding Budapest because of the free parking. Do we have a governmental support? Yes, we do have. 5 years ago, we wrote our nice and readable book. We call it Jedlikányos Plan. Does anybody knows who was Jedlikányos? Mr. Jedlikányos? He created the first electric vehicles in the world. That was, the pretty, small things, but we are really happy. That was the only one what we created in Hungary, except one or two, electric, ones for the Hungarian Post around the Second War, and we have created some electrical bus based on the Icarus story, but we don't have the too much production. Within the Jedlikányos program, we just reviewed last year, and we created a lot of, nice, readable things for the public and for, the private sector as well. Only 2 things is missing from this program. The first, the action plan. Who is doing what and from what kind of, fund. The second one, how can we double or triple these numbers? We just created the facts, but it's good because the government is focusing on this program. The second one, we did the basic regulation of the electric mobility because it's necessary. In the past, all of the countries created the regulation for using the electricity, selling, producing, distributing, and creating any kind of, pods, point of delivery place. And the same thing happened with, using the public roads and cars and everything. But it has to be reviewed. And we realize, because most of the definition which is coming to the street is still missing, especially for electric mobility or the other fancy thing, the micro-mobility thing. It's still missing from them. And we have two programs. How can we support to buy the electric vehicles? This is that's the Hungarian, names. So we had a special fund from the government in 2018, and we have the other one. It's really popular, but my personal opinion, we had more money what we used. So why? Because the education was not really clear It's really necessary, and that was the really good thing to join to the ProME program. So we must teach the people, especially the young people, because they must know what does it mean. Otherwise, nobody wants to buy it. Only for certain reasons, for free parking or free chargings, or just for showing the fancy things to the neighbors. The second things, the car makers, the OEMs, could not sell cars to Hungary. It's the same thing happened in Romania and the surrounding countries. So we have to do something together, not just within the country, in the whole region, because otherwise we can push the buttons, we can allocate the funds, we can do the regulation, we can create our nice, fancy plans with, with the consultant firms. It doesn't work. It has to be do all of things together. That's the statement, what we have done last year. Just goes through the first. It was the hard work together with the government, with a lot of conversation and conflict and fight between OEMs, utilities companies, IT companies, and all of the startups companies in Hungary, and with the ministry. The startup program is really popular in Hungary because we realize, if we can't do anything with the big players, we have to do something with the smaller ones. And the smaller ones could force our SMB market as well. So the first, we just review the KT, this is the road transportation regulation. Where can we use these vehicles? How can we use these vehicles? What does it mean, vehicles, especially with micromobility and all of other tiers? We just review the definition and we just, review all of the rules. The second one, we made a trick 4 years ago. We had a really, tricky guy from the ministry. We pushed him really heavily. And we said for them, hey, please help us with this chicken egg story. How can we force to make more charging points? And he said, we pushed him, hey, let's give more money to us and we can, build, free of charge some charging points. And he said, no, we don't have too money. So let's make any regulation. OTEC means this the country urban planning regulation. So if anybody from the room has more than 100 parking places, then by the law, he must create 1 charging slot. Tricky, easy. So we just created it without having any kind of controlling process and punishment process. But they started to do it, like Lidl, Tesco, Metro, the airport, all of the parking houses, all of the big places realized we must do something. And of course, they started with not with the fast charging, charging station, with the easy charging method, but it became more and more popular. The people who is going to the shopping mall, they can easily find 1 or 2, charging points. In the past, it was free of charge, but for the easy charging method, they said, okay, let's leave it like this. So that was quite tricky. That was the OTEC. The third one is the VET. VET means, the electricity regulation. So we had to review it. And right now, it's quite suitable for all of the utilities companies. It was done, the review this year in October. And the last one, we call it e-mobility, act. It's related purely to electric mobility. We just clarified all of the definition to create any kind of contract. Who is this? What does it mean? Charge point operator. Who is, who is using the services? What is the services? How can we charge this service? What is the base of the billing method, like minutes or kilowatts? Or it's not clear. In the past, we were waiting for the European Union. If somebody just create the nice paper and give it to the all countries, please translate it and localize it. It doesn't work like this. So we realized if we would like to force this market, then we have to do our job locally, and we have done it. We are lucky, we are happy, but it's not a good thing. it's just the first step to move forward. So we are glad to share our experience, what we did, how can we try to deal with the industry people and with the government. I could easily say it's not easy, but we must do it. Thank you for the quick overview. I didn't want to put all of the overview regarding the surrounding countries. I just put the short notes with the number of electric vehicles within the V4. We are on the top because of the free parking, but we are having exactly the same situation everywhere.
Thank you very much, Jozsef Petho.
Thank you so much.